Happy Hump Day, everybody, and welcome back to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BETSPERTS. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. Joining me, as always, Mr. Andy Molitor. And do we have some news for the people, Andy? Is there any updates in the BETSPERTS world we might want to share with the folks?
We bought an app. No big deal, but yes, the Fantasy Life app. If you haven't seen the PR, the press releases, whatnot, we did acquire Fantasy Life. It is Matthew Berry's creation, his little, a community, really. It's great. If you like any sort of social media, this is really fostered our fantasy football. It's surprisingly busy, even in the off season. There's a lot of people over there swapping stories and ideas and who should I pick up in dynasty leagues, even right now. So yes, the acquisition of the Fantasy Life, it will remain its own app. These will remain two separate apps for now. For the very future, nothing will change besides some synergy between the two products. And yeah, look for that. And if you don't already use it for fantasy or something along those lines, and you don't understand, they have the fastest NFL updates. Like as far as injuries, if you turn on push notifications for their NFL updates, it's legitimately the fastest in the industry. That's the biggest thing we've seen on social this morning. Like, hey, you guys aren't going to mess with the notifications, are you? The NFL news stuff. Now, of course, that's one of the biggest and best features of the Fantasy Life app. So you can download it anywhere, Apple Store, Google Play, get it. Yeah, check them out both. If you have any questions, obviously hit us up. But yeah, it's going to be nice because we don't have a big footprint in the fantasy space. There's such a nice overlap between fantasy DFS and gambling. Is obviously you see a lot of these fantasy players getting into like player props and stuff like that. So hopefully we can foster some relationships between the two communities and build on that. It'll be a lot of fun, especially come football season, because fantasy is every sport, but fantasy football is still king. It's
awesome.
It's still a god among men as far as fantasy sports. So, yeah, look for more stuff as we go throughout the week, and especially into the falls. We'll probably have some more fantasy and DFS content if that's your bag.
Yeah, fantasy football is great. I know just about everybody that's in the league with their friends that they've been together with forever. I don't play too much outside of that. I did get into a best ball kind of dynasty league thing, which was pretty interesting, but it's great. It's still super fun. And like you said, I know we always talk about sports betting, but there's a lot of overlap. And, maybe we'll sprinkle in a fantasy guest or two over the football season.
Oh, no, for sure. I think especially as we get towards the fall, people start doing fantasy drafts. Like, honestly, with the amount of stuff I do for NFL prep and just getting ready, and I usually take a vacation sometime in August too, it's like, Jesus, I really almost always struggle. I'm like, I did not do any fantasy prep. Like, I'm not ready. So that's the awesome part. Like the deep dive, we've done that a couple times. Like, Christ, let's get a fantasy guy in here to talk the draft. Just like, and I'm sitting there, I'll sit there and like take notes, which we used to not do streams, so you couldn't tell. Now you'll see me like on the video sitting like, I'll be putting it in a Google Doc. Maybe I'll just, it's recorded. I can always re-listen to it later. So, but back to some news at hand. The two LA teams kind of headed in opposite directions last night. The Lakers looked good, and the Clippers did not. Let's start with the Clippers. What is wrong with the Clippers? What is going on?
I was mentioning in the chat that last night's game, when I went back and watched it, actually this morning, I didn't watch it live, reminded me a lot of what I've seen from the first two games from the Celtics. The offense for the Clippers looks really stagnant. This team doesn't have a true point guard. Outside of the few minutes Rondo is on the floor, they don't have someone that can really drive and kick, that generates a lot of ball movement. When you watch some of these better basketball teams, the ball is constantly moving. Players are in position with their hands up, ready to get the ball and do something. You watch a Celtics game, you watch some of these Clippers games, you got guys standing with their arms down just watching the ball. There's not any sort of fluidity there. And I think at the end of the day, that's really causing a lot of trouble for them. You watch the other side of the ball, and Dallas has Luka Doncic, who is not only a great ISO player, but is constantly keeping everybody involved. You look at those guys, again, hands up, they're moving, they're looking for the ball, they're trying to create something. And the Clippers defensively have not been as good as we thought that they would be. I thought it was interesting to see them switch out Batum and do some things like that. Serge Ibaka has not looked right. But for me, again, the big thing with a lot of these teams is in 2021, a lot of people talk about shooting 3-pointers, but I think now that teams have adopted that, the next sort of edge that you have is going to be having guys who can penetrate and kick, guys who can generate offense and play in a way that's open and wide and fun and keeps everybody involved. I mean, if anyone's played basketball, there's nothing worse than being on the floor knowing you're not going to get the basketball. If so-and-so has the ball, you might as well just start jogging back to the other end on defense because it's over. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with the Clippers. Something's not right there. That team doesn't look happy. They don't look cohesive. They're not having fun playing together. And, maybe Ty Lue is not the best coach in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, he was so good in that one playoff run. It's like, oh, yeah, but he had LeBron.
What a mess. And the Lakers,
that fixes a lot.
Yeah, the Lakers look pretty good.
Yeah, they did look pretty good. If you remember what the odds were for that series and what they shifted to, it's like minus 350 right now. So
they've got home court advantage now. So it makes sense to me, the move. I think it's probably a little big of a move, but I've got enough Suns liability. I don't think I'm going back at the plus 240, plus 250. We saw them here. So you've got the odds to win the Western Conference here. Our Blazers still there at 13-1. There's some better numbers out there. So if you didn't get on the Blazers, I think you can still jump on. They didn't win game 2 and frankly look all that good, but they won game 1. They still have home court advantage. We're going back to Portland for 2. So I think now's a good time to get on the Blazers if you didn't already. And again, the Clippers, I don't understand why they're plus 550. That looks, their price in the series, I think now is like plus 230, something in that range. So yeah. That's just a rough number. You've got the Jazz at plus 275. Yes, Donovan Mitchell's coming back, but based on the reports we heard, that might be a bad thing. There's a lot of whispers and things about how the locker room is now go Bears. Once you start hearing stuff like that, it's just bad. So you keep looking at this. It's the Suns or the Lakers, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
got the Blazers.
I was going to say Suns at 8-1 isn't the worst. Just considering, it's funny how seeding just means nothing right now. These seed, they should throw out the seeding numbers and just start putting the betting odds in front. Like, hey, guess what? The Lakers are the 1 seed right now, because they're the favorite in the betting market. And, the Grizzly at 40, Grizzly is at 41. That is what it is. But like Nuggets, Blazers right there, because of one of them has to be eliminated, and then their path isn't super easy. But yeah, with Blazers in my pocket, I'm not saying I'm too late to take the Lakers, but I wish I had a little earlier. I guess I do have them to win the title at some promo bets, some little stuff, but the Lakers look very good. And yeah, the Clippers, I guess they don't want to put a big number out there just in case, but yeah, that's unbettable. The Mavericks, likely unbettable. They're not going to have this sort of matchup for 2 more rounds. And yeah, the Grizz, obviously I'm not putting any money there, but yeah, Lakers or Suns for me too, I think.
When you look at it, like you said, the way it's all stacked up, all the teams you want to bet on are playing each other. So the winner of Portland-Denver gets the winner of Lakers-Suns. We've already got some Portland to win the West. I don't feel great about the Nuggets without Jamal Murray, as good as Jokic looked the other night. We just talked about the Lakers' price. They have to run into the Suns. You look at the other half, then it's Jazz, Clippers, Mavericks, Grizzlies. There's no one there really to get excited about. And then you start to look at the numbers, like, maybe Mavericks make a run to the conference finals. That's kind of interesting. But like you said, it's 6.5-1. I think that books are looking at this and going, we don't really know what to do, so we're going to tighten up all our prices, and maybe somebody will bet it, and maybe they won't. We're fine. That's what this says to me. So
I'm probably abstaining from more futures. I don't need any more. I'm sitting on Blazers, Lakers to win. I have a Nuggets or Mavericks to win the West,
I think. That's right. I
remember that from the weird Black Friday promos. I have 2 of them because you bet it at the one, and then you bet it at the red book, and then you bet it at the blue book if you want to bet both. So if people get my meaning there. So real quick, cup odds. We don't bet hockey, but I figured I'd put this up because producer Dan made a very nice graphic here with the shiny cup. Avalanche moving on, waiting for the winner of the Wild and what is it? What are they? The Golden Knights? Or is it just? Or do we just say Knights now? Yeah, I'm just going to say Knights. So that's a series that could go 7. So obviously the Avalanche, not only a favorite and very good, but they're sitting there resting up, waiting for a winner of a long, drawn-out series. Maple Leafs 550, just because a Canadian team does have to make the Final Four. I'm still hopeful for my Hurricanes. I have 20-1s. It's down to 8-1. I know that they struggled a little bit with the Preds, but here we go, Hurricanes. So nothing else. I'm not adding any futures, mostly because I don't know what the shit I'm doing with hockey. If anybody has an opinion on that, by all means, tell me if there's a number in here that's worth betting. So yeah, the Avs just look so good. Like whoever ends up coming out of the pod that ends up playing the Avalanche, that's rough, because it's going to be a much easier path not going through Colorado until the finals. So good luck to the rest of the league. I don't know if this even works out, but yeah, Hurricanes Avalanche final. Let's go.
Lightning Avalanche.
Lightning. Oh yeah, Lightning. Well, Lightning
One of us will
Avalanche.
be happy, I think.
Yeah, well, somebody's going to be sad. So
how does all the reseeding work? Like, is there any chance the Lightning gets stuck in the same pod with Colorado? I hope not.
It's full reseeding based on it's seeding. They'll go 1v4, 2v3 based on where those 4 teams that come out of the pod sit. So you have to wait for the first and second rounds to be finished. So if a real low seed pops out, like you're playing the Avalanche, it's kind of how it works. So it might work out for some of my teams to be like being the 2 seed. And again, I don't know how all these teams were seeded according to record, how it all works, but I think it's probably good for my Hurricanes. I don't think there's a high chance they could meet the Avs until the final. Don't quote me on that, though. I'm not a hockey bettor. Speaking of actually betting on some games, though, you have an NBA side, a little bit of a deriv market tonight. What's the rub here?
Knicks first half, -1. As a lot of people know, the Knicks first half is one of the best things you could have bet this year. I think it was like 49 and 20 something against the spread for the season with 2 pushes or something like that. Just an incredible record for them at home. They start every game with a lot of intensity, and I think tonight we're going to see a lot more of that. They lost game 1 to the Hawks. This is frankly a must-win game for them. If they go to Atlanta down 0-2, this series is going to be over very quickly. I know that motivational ankles aren't the greatest thing in the world, but it's just a series like this. We have something like that coming against something that we see every year. Teams that win game 1 on the road, especially underdogs, tend to have a really down game 2. It's a lot of ways they're looking ahead to coming home. They're enjoying the win from game 1 a little too bit, and they frankly let off. So I think the Knicks are going to have a great start to this game. I expect them to win this game, but I think it's going to be close at the ending, just like we saw in game 1 here. So happy to take them in the first half -1. There's a juicy -0.5 somewhere. -1's fine. I think that's okay here. Just a really nice spot for the Knicks. Must-win situation. I think Atlanta is going to come out a little slow after having won game 1 as an underdog. So let's go Knicks first half.
Yeah, hopefully the Trae Young heroics can wait till the fourth quarter. I don't even know who I'm cheering. Again, I said I was cheering for the Knicks because it was so fun watching the Garden rocking like that. But I do hope they take this game because just selfish reasons. I don't have any money on anything. Well, I'd like to see your Knicks 4-3 series price come through, but also besides that, I'd just like to see a game 7. I'd like to see this series go on and on. So
that'll be fun. Knicks basketball is a good thing for everybody.
It really
a couple
is.
Other games tonight are tough. They're big spreads. I think the Sixers can cover a big number, but the back door is always open there. And then the Jazz are laying 9.5, and Donovan Mitchell's return, which I'm not sure is a good thing or a bad thing. So
yeah, we don't know how that team feels about each other right now. We're gonna sit back and watch. Yeah, sit back and see how the Jazz feel about each other. So last night, if you caught it, I played the course. I shot a 59 down there in Colonial. Not that tough of a course really for me because I have a huge stick that's accurate as all get up. And I can putt like a madman. I even missed some putts. Still shot a 59. No, I mean, I'm driving 310, 325.
Oh, golf.
Doesn't matter. Yep. So crushed it. If you didn't catch that, it is on the YouTube channel, Approaching Green. Pam and I go through 16 different bets that we placed, outright head-to-heads and whatnot. I'll have everything I bet. Everything I've given out here, everything I've given out on Approaching the Green, everything I've given out just everywhere else, and everything, literally every bet I make, I'll have in a blog form this afternoon, including some day one stuff that I already placed this morning. I'm not going to sit and go through each one of these in great detail. You can tell, I mean, some of these guys are just people I have as fade positions. Snedeker's a guy I like this week too. I was happy to see a matchup versus JT Poston. Keith Mitchell was kind of a fade for me. I laid a little extra juice on that. He's always a bit of an enigma for me, but I'm fine with this week. Tony Finau getting a lot of respect in the market. And yes, he's a top 10 machine. But Kokrak's a guy I have outright. Kokrak's a guy I have some matchups. So I like that at a big dog price, especially in a single round like that. Where it's high variance, single round. I know 4 out of 5 are favorites. And truthfully, the way they lay these juice, like Sneds over Poston, that's not a favorite. It's 14 one side, 16 the other. Sneds is the dog in that one. So the same thing with Knox and Ortiz. Knox is actually an underdog, but you can't get away with a low hold on most of these single day markets. So Knox over Ortiz, Kokrak over Finau, Perez over Keith Mitchell, Snedeker over JT Poston. And again, double dipping. Sometimes this works, sometimes it don't. But Jason Koch over Sergio Garcia at -116. So I had to bet these at a couple different books. Not everyone has the same markets, but if you do have any questions about individual matchups, hit me up in the Twitter replies, because I will usually give you an opinion based on that. And I'm excited. It should be a good tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that tournaments after majors. Those seem to be fun because you'll have guys that had down weeks come and sort of pop.
Yeah, and it's not a big letdown. Colonial's a nice course. This is actually the longest running single PGA tournament that's held at the original course. Like, they've never changed courses. It's been there for like 70 goddamn years, and it is a nice place. So very excited about this. And yeah, Muirfield next week. The Memorial's another. Like, there's some good tournaments here between here and the next major. Aruba Reina just even things up. Our parlay sits in her hands in a third set because Harriet Dart, I think she took the third. It took 3 sets too.
She needed 3 sets too.
She needed 3 sets. So Aruba Reina right now up 30-15 on return. So an early break here would be very good for that parlay to come through. I would like that. We have one tennis bet to close things out today.
Just
a little French Open.
Yeah, it's, again, we're right in this time of the year where we've mentioned matches are happening right now, prices are opening, so there's not a lot to pick from. And also, as we get later in the week, that's kind of one of the nice parts about tennis, folks. There's a lot of stuff you'd like to normally bet on the weekend. Tennis heavy Monday, later in the week, very light. Works nicely for NFL season. But for now, just one match. We're going to take Anna Karolina Schmiedlova. We actually had her over against Korpatch yesterday. Korpatch had a chance to take the second set after getting bageled in the first. Unfortunately, she did not take advantage of that. She was up a break. I think served for it once, if not twice. But we're going to take Schmiedlova here. She's a dog. Tavera Zvonareva, an older Russian player who's solid on clay, but much better as a hard court player here. I have this match obviously a lot closer than the line, but Schmiedlova, I would have in the +130, +135 range. So I think you can play this down to like +155, +160. I think there's a lot of value here in Schmiedlova, who, again, traditionally a much better clay player, especially in slow clay like we have here in France, has been in a little better form here versus Zvonareva, someone with a little more of a recognizable name, better statistics overall. But when you start to hone into clay, hone into outdoor, hone into some of these slower surfaces, it gets a little worse for her. So I like Schmiedlova here as a dog +185. And again, at this price, it's still a full unit for me, even though sometimes I would go less than that. So I like this number a lot.
Is this semis or quarters? Are we in the second? This is second or?
This is, I think you have to win 2 more matches to qualify.
Jeez.
It's hard because it's not really a
it's
final.
Not easy to
it's
qualify.
Just sort of an end point.
So, all right. And just spoiler alert, and you'll see some tweets about this, I'm sure. We will be talking some tennis tonight on the deep dive, among other topics, but we will it's tough because the draw isn't, I think Friday morning is the draw. So it's tough to talk about a tournament when you don't know where people are seated, nor who they play, nor their path. A lot is dependent on the draw. A lot of tennis handicappers will have, anti and post draw bets where they said, no matter what, I like this number. But a lot of them will wait until the draw to see if they can pick off some easy paths and stuff. And I'm sure we'll get into that tonight. So Probably no heavy tennis content until Wednesday or Friday. We'll probably touch on it a little Thursday if the draw's early, but definitely next week we'll get heavy into some French Open stuff and possibly even some guests on here, some tennis guests talking French Open, Roland Garros. What are we doing? Let's get wild with it. So let's close with a big thank you to the sponsor, WinBet, where your $500 risk-free bet is always available. Always there for new players. 6 states now. More to come. Links are in the pinned tweet. Go sign up. Get your free bet. If you have questions on optimal strategy on placing a free bet, I did create some articles.
Hey, they're good.
Right at the beginning of March Madness, kind of explaining the math behind how you should approach having a risk-free bet. In fact, one of the tips I gave was just, hey, pick any of these underdogs in the round one and just mash it. The bigger, the better. And one of them was Oral Roberts. If you'd placed a $500 risk-free bet on there, you'd have some. Honestly, you'd have them mad at you because that would have been.
They would not be happy.
That would have been like an $8,000 win. So
that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's
leave
do
it
that.
In there. Play it over a couple times. Be nice about it. Come on.
I think and you did mention play it over. It is only a one-time rollover. Like it is not one of those 25 rollover things. You just need to play it over once more before withdrawing it. So nothing weird. Check the T's and C's though, just to make sure you're in compliance. And we'll see you tomorrow, huh?